Hello, welcome back to Bioclass Bites. In this video, we are going to talk about Introduction to Evolution. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like and share this video. This lesson is part of Grade 11 Earth and Life Science unit on the process of evolution. So these are the unit and lesson titles. The whole unit on the process of evolution has been divided into two major subunits. Number one, the evidence for evolution, and number two, the origin and extinction of species. So for this video, we will first tackle the introduction to evolution. So in its simplest essence, biological evolution is descent with modification. So it means that passing off of traits from parents to offspring it will eventually create mutation, modification, or changes in the offspring, okay, over time. Okay, so the descendants over time will look a little bit different from their ancestors. Another thing to clarify is that for this unit, we will be talking about biological evolution, which is different from chemical evolution. Okay, if you still remember our lesson in Introduction to Life Science, chemical evolution mostly points out to abiogenesis, a theory that tries to explain how the non-living chemical compounds in the early Earth are possibly the source of the protocells or the primitive cells in those times. Okay, so that's a different matter. Chemical evolution is different. Here we are talking about biological evolution. It means that it's already a living organism, right, that underwent descent with modification. So the central idea of biological evolution is this, that all life on Earth share a common ancestor. Okay, and we have a lot of evidences pointing out to this central idea, okay, which we will discuss as we go along. And also one of our lessons in unifying themes in the study of biology is that biological evolution is the best scientific explanation as to the unity of all living things as well as the biodiversity of all the organisms. So we will learn more about that as we go along. Through the process of descent with modification or passing off of traits from parent to offspring with changes over time, the common ancestor of life on Earth gave rise to the fantastic diversity. So again, we've talked about this in unifying themes in the study of biology that we see documented in the fossil record and around us today. Okay, so we will look more into that. Now, another way to actually trace our common ancestor is by looking at our geologic time scale. And we've talked about this in one of our lessons about the Earth's history. So the geologic time scale is actually the calendar of events of the Earth's history. So we can actually look back in time based on the evidences from the fossil records and all those evidence. We see that as time goes by, if you actually go back in time, there's this changes um, in the organisms present in every eon, in every era, in every period, every epoch, and every age. Okay, so the geologic time scale actually um, helps us establish this concepts or central ideas about evolution. So this is the geologic time scale, and we are currently living in the Cenozoic era, Quaternary period. Okay, and our species, the human species, is actually quite a young one. We are only here for about 200,000 years. Okay, but if you actually compare that to the entire geologic time scale, that is just a fragment of the entire thing. Okay, so if we go back in time, 5 million, 23 million, 65 million, billions and billions of years ago, you will see that for every era, for every period, for every epoch, you will see there representative organisms that were present during those times. Here are additional learning resources about the history of the Earth and geologic time scale. So you can actually check out the following websites. This is from history.com, so history of the universe, and they mostly talk about a bit about geologic time scale. So this one is a video about the geologic time scale, and this one you've seen this in our previous lessons on history of the universe, history of the Earth, 25 biggest turning points in the Earth's history. I'll provide the links in the description below. These two are interactive geologic timescales. This one is from Dino 101. You can actually go to this website and see an interactive animation of as you travel through the different eras and periods of the geologic timescale. This one is also another interactive geologic timescale. Again, I'll provide the links in the description below. Then you can actually go back and learn and relearn about geologic timescale from the lectures on Unit 2 Earth Materials and Processes and Unit 3 Introduction to Life Science. You can access those in the online library. Now, here are more learning resources. These are recommended videos for you to watch. Still connected to geologic timescale. So this is from TED Ed. How old is the Earth? Okay, I'll provide the link in the description below. PBS Eons, another one of my favorite YouTube channel, A Brief History of Geologic Time. So again, you can find that in the description below. And this is from NPR's Skunk Bear, the Earth's entire history. They try to visualize the geologic time scale. So again, I'll provide the links in the description below. Please find the time to watch all these videos. These are very interesting. And if you are a dinosaur junkie like me, you will find all of this very interesting. Now, this is the part where I always get into trouble because I'm such a huge supporter of the importance of knowing what's a theory and what's a fact and how they are different from common regular days usage of the words. So first, evolution, we want to establish this. The concept of evolution is both a theory and a fact. Okay? It is a theory because a scientific theory because it tries to explain how life on Earth happened, how it changed over time. So it's a scientific theory. It's an area of active research, and we are constantly looking for evidence to support this theory. Right? It's a theory because it tries to explain how one species give rise to another. So scientific theory. Evolution is also a fact. Okay, so it's both. Evolution is both a theory and a fact. It's also a fact because there is a great deal of undisputable evidence that support its occurrence. So it's a fact, it's an established fact. I do not understand why people are still questioning it when it is already established fact. Okay? I'll try to be calm all throughout this video, all throughout this playlist series. I'll try my best to be calm, remain calm as I talk about evolution because I'm really passionate about this lesson. Okay? It's one of my favorite fields of science, fields of biology. First will be evolution, followed by genetics, and then the rest. So it is an established fact, okay? No one in the scientific community is questioning it anymore. We know, we accept, we've seen the evidences, we acknowledge the evidences. It's true, we evolved over time. Living things are products of descent with modification, okay? So that's that. Now, the only thing that we are looking into are finding out more evidences to complete the picture of how we evolved, how living things evolved over time, okay? We know that it happened. We know a lot. We have a lot of undisputable evidence, but we still want to complete the picture. So what is uncertain is not how it happened. What's uncertain is how it happens, how evolution happened over time. We are still looking for that, but there's no more uncertainty if whether it happened at all. So there's undisputable evidence that it is a fact, okay? So I want to establish that. Now, I think one of the major source of confusion is that very few people understand the difference between fact and theory, hypothesis, and law, or scientific theory and scientific law. So I'm providing these two videos from one from It's Okay to Be Smart, fact versus theory versus hypothesis versus law, that explains the differences of those words. Okay? So I'll provide the link in the description below. This is a required video to watch. Okay? So that you will not be part of those population groups of people who still contend evolution. Okay. Then this one is the difference. What's the difference between a scientific law and theory from TED Ed? So again, this tries to explain how they are different and why people are saying, oh, if evolution is true, how come it's not yet a law? So there's a difference between a theory and a law. So this video will explain to that. The links to these videos will be provided in the description below. This one also from Amoeba Sisters, quite a recent discovery of mine. Okay, Amoeba Sisters is also one of my favorite YouTube channels. So this video will again further explains the difference between scientific theory and scientific law. So watch this video so that you will know the difference, so that you'll understand. I'll provide the link in the description below. Now, this is another concept I want to correct. Okay, I want to establish. Okay, again, one of the reasons why people are doubtful about evolution being a theory is that they have no deep understanding of the word theory. Okay, so let me clarify. In everyday language, the word theory could be a guess, a hunch. Okay, that's for everyday use of the word. However, for scientists, whenever we use the word theory, it actually has a bigger meaning because it is a well-supported explanation. Okay? Theories are the best scientific explanation we have about an existing phenomenon. Okay? About something that needs to be explained. The best explanation for that are theories. So for scientists, this is a big word for us. It's not just a guess or a hunch, it's a well-supported explanation. Scientific theories and scientific laws are often confused. Okay, so for some people, they think that theories need to be promoted into laws so that they'll be a fact. Okay, that's not true. Again, there's a difference between facts and laws and theories and hypotheses. So it will do you well, it will do you good to know the difference between all of those. So theories, I've mentioned a while ago that these are the best explanation we have about why something happens. Okay? So theories mostly are, they try to explain what happened in the past and they try to predict what could happen in the future. It is an explanation of natural phenomenon, of nature. What happened in Earth, what happened to space and time and matter, how the universe began. So they carry a huge weight. Okay? They are explanation as to why something happens, and it is based on evidence, a lot of supporting evidence. Sometimes those evidence can be revised or altered, but most of the evidence that are still standing strong are good supports to the theories. So examples of that will be atomic theory and evolution theory and all that. Laws, on the other hand, predict what will happen based on existing parameters. Okay? It means that it will predict what will happen if you have this value. It has a predictable outcome. Still based on evidence. For example, the Newton's laws of motion. So for example, it can predict what will be the force of an object if you have its mass and its acceleration. So force equals mass times acceleration is a law because it can already predict the value of the force if you have the mass and the acceleration. Okay, so they are mostly mathematical in nature. Another would be the laws of inheritance by Gregor Mendel. It can predict the genotypic and phenotypic ratio of the offspring if you have the genotypes of the parents. Okay, it can predict the appearance of the offspring if you have data about the parents. So it will predict what will happen based on established evidences. So theories, okay, they explain what happened in the past and what could happen in the future based on evidences. Laws will predict outcomes based on existing parameters. So they talk about different things. So again, watch these videos. It will explain everything that I'm trying to say. Um, Now, these are recommended videos about evolution. This is from TED Ed, Myths and Misconceptions about Evolution. Recommended video to watch. I'll provide the link in the description below. Now, this video is from Stated Clearly. So, what is evolution? It tries to explain the theory of evolution. Very, very informative video. I'll provide the link in the description below. And this is from Nova Labs, Evolution 101. Still another informative video about evolution, linked in the description below. Now, after watching all those videos, I hope that you will be able to arrive to the following central idea, that evolution is change in the heritable characteristics over successive generations. So, descent, so that's over successive generations, with modification, change in heritable characteristics of biological evolution. So evolutionary processes give rise to biodiversity at every level of biological organization. So if we still remember our levels of organization, from cells to tissues to organ to population to ecosystem, so including the species, individual organisms, and even molecules. So evolutionary processes that we will talk about under mechanisms of evolution give rise to biodiversity. And one good way to picture out the biodiversity of living organisms is by looking at evolutionary tree. Okay, so this is evolutionary tree, tree of life, phylogenetic tree. So it shows us how from our early ancestors, living things evolved and evolved away from each other and become their own group of species or group of organisms. Okay, so from our common ancestor, we have this group or kingdom of plants. We have this kingdom of group of invertebrates. We have this kingdom of animals, mammals and reptiles, and all those, even humans on this part. We have here this evolution of fish, evolution of insects. Okay, so this tree of life, evolutionary tree, shows us how we are related to one another and how we all diverged away from each other to create this biodiversity, and how we are all related to a common ancestor. So this one is another simplified evolutionary tree. It shows us that all the major groups of organisms in our planet can actually trace their lineage back to a common ancestor. Okay? And this part, we have already established this during our lesson on Introduction to Life Science, the history of history and development of the concept of life. We've established this through um, biogenesis and abiogenesis, how it happened. So at this point, we will now look into how organisms evolved over time with modification. All life on Earth share a common ancestor. Okay, we call that LOCA, or the last universal common ancestor. According to research, LOCA lived approximately 3.5 to 3.8 billion years ago. And a study in 2015 found remains of biotic life as far as 4.1 billion years ago in Western Australia. Okay, so we have new evidences that support that all living things all share a common ancestor. One of the evidence would be in July 2016, scientists reported identifying 355 genes from the LOCA of all living organisms on living on Earth. So what does it mean? They were able to identify 355 genes shared by all living things, from humans to amphibians to fish to worms to plants. We all share 355 genes with each other. And that can be traced back to our last universal common ancestor. Another one undisputable evidence that we are all related with each other and that we evolved over time. So if we share 355 genes with the fish, it means that we have a common ancestor with that fish. And it's the same for all living things on our planet, and that's huge to figure out how all of this the variety of organisms are connected with each other. That's a huge discovery. That's another support that we were actually expecting, okay, from evolution, okay, because of previous evidences. If you want to learn more about evolution, you could check this out, Understanding Evolution. I'll provide the link in the description below. They have a wide collection of different lessons. Nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. This was actually the title of an essay written by Theodosius Dobzhansky in 1973, wherein he tried to explain in that essay why it is very important for students to understand evolution as the best explanation on how organisms changed over time and how we are why do we look like this right now and how we are related with each other. And this one is actually correct. It's true. It's everything that we have studied so far about biology, about cells, about living organisms, about humans, about transfer of energy, about food chain and all that, nothing about those will make sense unless you look at it through the prism, through the light of evolution. It means that whatever it is that you're specializing on, whatever it is that you're studying, you could be looking at cells, or you could be looking at the human body, you could be looking at ecosystems. Understanding that these are results of evolution will make it more comprehensive for you. So if you're looking at structures, you'll see this looks like the way it is because the organism evolved over time to look like this. Or whatever processes that you are studying, or whatever predictions that you are working on, only through evolution can all of those concepts make sense. Okay, that's why it's very important for students as early as grade 8, okay, as early as grade 8 to understand this concept, this scientific concept, and this scientific fact. Um, so that's why, I've mentioned this quite often with my students that I get into a lot of trouble because I'm such a passionate teacher when it comes to evolution. It's because I still really do not understand why there are people contending it. Maybe because they're really not familiar with the concept, or they do not know the mechanisms of evolution. But maybe, that's why I'm here. That's my job, to actually teach students about these things. So again, everything that we study in biology, all of those only make sense because we have to understand this unifying theme about life, about biology, that we are all products of evolution, that we are all related with each other, and we are all descendants of a common ancestor. And then if you understand that, then everything will make sense to you. Okay, so yeah, and this will just be an introduction to a very long playlist about evolution. So we will look into evidences, mechanisms, and how organisms moved away from, or evolved away from each other through speciation and through adaptation. So I hope you learned something new today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like and share this video. Till next time, goodbye.